Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission scheduled for today, Tuesday, March 13th. I'm going to open the meeting at 7:30. Can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Fenton? Here. Mr. Jacobson? Mr. Jones? Here. Mr. Kucera?
Here.
Mr. McHale?
Here.
Ms. Prowse? Here. Ms. Scripture?
Here.
Mr. Shepard?
Here.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to need a motion for the approval of the regular minute meetings from February 27th.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from February 27, 2018 of the Planning Commission.
Support.
Motion, support. Anybody have any changes, corrections? Good as is. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Ms. Prowse? Yes. Ms. Scripture?
Yes.
Mr. Shepard?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Fenton?
Agenda item number 5, we have a public hearing on proposed Clawson master plan. Mr. Elliott?
So this is the date and time we set for having the official public hearing on our draft master plan. It's called the 2017 master plan. We undertook the study for that actually at the end of 2016, I believe, and I have been working on it ever since. It's been out for comment now for a bit over the required 63 days. We received comments from several of the agencies that were in your packet. Last time, all generally favorable, and we are now required to conduct one final public hearing before you would be in a position to approve it, or if City Council wants that right, then before they approve it. And so I guess I have a, sort of a presentation I prepared, but if there's not actually anybody here for the public hearing, I will save you the time that is necessary to go through it. I will note, again, as we've talked about many times before, that there was a substantial amount of public engagement front-loaded into the process. We had 4 roundtable sessions that we conducted with various interest groups, schools, seniors, business people, real estate people in the community. And then we had an online survey that was up for just over 2 months, got some 326 responses to that. And that resulted in the document that's before you now, which as far as we're concerned is complete. And so I guess I would suggest that you take a look to see if anybody's here to comment on it officially. It's been available on the website and at the counter during the notice period, and if not, then I will have a recommendation for you as to how to proceed.
Okay, we've hacked through this thing a lot of times, and I'm okay with it. Does anybody else have a comment up here? Nope. Is there anybody from the public that would like to get up and comment on it?
Just out of curiosity, were there any paper copies available for those that don't have websites and computers?
It's available
okay.
at the clerk's
Yes,
office.
Okay, seeing no public comment, I'll close the public, and we can move on then, right?
So what I would suggest, because council hasn't opined yet on whether they want to be the final approval authority, I guess if we could have a motion from you expressing your approval of it and asking council whether they want to have the final vote on the approval of the master plan, that would be appropriate, and then we can put it on their agenda.
Isn't it customary that council do?
No. In fact, what the statute says is that only if they ask to be the final approval authority do they have that authority. They have not, but I think it would be appropriate to ask them one more time before we go ahead and approve it. It's the Planning Commission's document. This is a policy document prepared and approved by the Planning Commission as envisioned by the Planning Enabling Act. But if the council wants the final say, they can have it.
Okay,
Well, we could make a motion
To that effect?
with the option for them.
right.
Yeah, I would recommend. So I would make a motion to recommend City Council provide a final approval, subject to their decision.
Or do we want to make a motion that we approve it?
It has
And
our,
then-
Sorry, we need to do that first before, well,
I would say you approve it, subject to council's final
Okay.
approval.
Yeah, with their option on the end of that.
Should they
Okay.
wish.
Should they wish, yeah. that-
so I would make a motion that we approve final master plan, and then recommend City Council provide their input for final approval.
Well, instead of recommend, how about leaving the option with them?
That's a recommendation.
same thing.
No, different wording.
I like Jim's, I have to say.
Yeah, I
Okay,
guess.
that's fine. Okay.
Option 2.
All right, I have a motion.
Support.
Now I have support. Any changes? Nothing? No. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kucera,
Yes.
Mr. McHale,
Yes.
Ms. Kraus, Ms. Scripture,
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Benton,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Item agenda number 6 is a show cause hearing regarding 1238 Anderson Court.
You asked that we provide them with notice of your desire to have them come before you. This is Western Global, as you'll recall. They've had an issue there with outdoor storage of their fuel pods. And so we did provide them with that notice, and I believe a representative is here tonight to address your concerns. I will say that we looked back in the minutes, so there were 2 approvals that happened with this. Originally, they went to the Zoning Board of Appeals because they were asking to be substituted for a non-conforming use, that the prior use was non-conforming, and their use is, in fact, non-conforming in the BRD2 district as well. And a condition of that approval from the ZBA was that the operations be completely be conducted within a completely enclosed building, with the understanding that there would be no outdoor storage. They then came to you with a site plan, which you approved, that did not show any outdoor storage, consistent with that condition that the ZBA had put on it. And so they're here before you now to answer for why, notwithstanding the site plan that you approved, they are not in conformance with that site plan. So,
Okay. Is there someone here from Western Global?
Yeah, this is Barry Truan from Western Global. Yeah, so as we've had a couple conversations with the city, our business has exploded in the last 18 months. We relocated it from Connecticut to Michigan, and it grew significantly faster than we anticipated, which resulted in us storing our fuel pods outside because we couldn't fit them in our building anymore. We have been looking quite extensively over the last 12 months for a new facility or additional facility to be able to move our outside storage to. As you know, the real estate market's been pretty hard to find a building, but we did secure one about 2 months ago, and June 1st we secured that, and all our outside storage will be moving, of the fuel pods will be moving into that new facility. So it's a kind of a short-term problem that we've addressed for the long term. So appreciate the city working with us.
Where's the new location at?
It's in Troy on Northwood, just
Okay.
about 3 blocks north of there.
Not too bad for you guys then.
Yeah, so it should be pretty easy to move.
Nice.
Good problem to have, I guess, but
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, I was surprised when I drove by and saw the stack. You make these things, and then what are these fuel canisters, or?
yeah, that's right. So we sell a lot of them into like construction projects and power generation and infrastructure and all kinds of fuel applications. So
Yeah, from the city's point of view, that it's taking up your parking lot, and then I understand cars are starting to park on the street out there, causing a little bit of a traffic problem down there.
Yeah, short term, what we've done is we work with the neighbors and have leased some additional parking for our cars to get them off the street over the last 4 or 5 months. So that helped alleviate it. But again, our core issue was we ran out of space. So
Right.
we found a larger facility that, again, will be shifting that outside storage to.
So you are asking, just so I understand, you are asking if you can leave them as is until June 1st, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I was clear on that.
It's a June 1st.
We get the building on June 1st, so we move in like that first week of June.
Okay, so by the end of June.
But yeah, if you say by the end of June, then it'll be more than adequate.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any problems with that?
Does that require any action on our part to grant any sort of something?
Or is it just that?
I don't think you can really approve of it. It's not a permitted use,
Right.
but you can, I would say, put off the show cause hearing until whatever date it will be that they think they'll be in compliance.
So if they're not moved by June 1st, you'll be back here in front of us explaining why.
Yeah, well, maybe if we, to
Yeah,
what you were
June,
saying, if we
middle of
say the
June,
end of June,
end
that
of June.
allows us enough time to.
June.
Or
Get-
one
get
of our
it
June
shifted.
meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
So that would mean that we would, if that isn't completed by the end of June, then we would have a show cause.
Well, I would just adjourn this show cause hearing to whatever your second meeting in June is.
Second meeting June or first meeting July? Where we-
Second meeting in June, we should know, right?
That should be enough time, second
Yeah.
meeting in June.
June 20.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
fine.
I'm good with that. And then we'll just cancel it if,
Right.
okay. That works, that works.
Okay.
Would we want a motion to that effect, that we're
Yeah.
going
Okay. I'll make a motion that we postpone show cause for Western Global at, what's the address? 1238 Anderson Court until the 26th of June 2018.
Is that court or road?
Court.
Court. Yeah, it said road on the.
Oh. I'll support that.
Okay, I have a motion, I have support. Roll call, please.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Ms. Prowse?
Yes.
Ms. Scripture?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Benton? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes, thank you. Agenda item number 7 is a request for a TCO for 1060 West 14 Mile Road, which is Haberman Fabrics.
We put in your packet the estimates of some of the work that we had. It would be my observation that not all of that is site work, and so maybe Mr. Weir can explain when he comes before you here how much of it is really site work. But they're anxious to get into the building. Jim tells me that the first floor of the building is nearly ready for occupancy, and so they're requesting of you tonight authority for Jim to issue a TCO when he's satisfied with the condition of the building itself, and then set, as you usually do, the amount of security that you would need and time frame for compliance for the exterior work. We've typically been doing May 31st for weather-related items.
That is going to be the busiest meeting in the history.
No, they're all going to be done. They won't have to come back. Everything's going to be done on May 31st, like, boom.
I'm going to hold you to that.
I'll support that.
I'll strip first.
Hold him to that.
I've had two conversations with Mark, one on Friday and one on Monday, in connection with his particular situation. He's going to make the presentation tonight, and I'm going to request that you give him some favorable treatment, because he does have a strategy in place. It would be improvident of me to say what the strategy is, but he's faced with a situation where there are a lot of improvements that have to be done that are expensive. And unfortunately, right now, the prices are maybe out of reason. And he wants to get certain things done and then use some other approaches to try to get realistic prices in the future. So to say that he ought to do things now with a bond that might be extraordinary arduous on him, I think it might be best to look at this in two phases. One is to figure out what he can do in the short term, which is easy, quick, gets things done. And maybe once he makes further arrangements that accommodate what his goal is and his strategy, he come back before you, and then we determine what amount, if any, should he post as a bond for the completion of those. It was a very engaging conversation, very constructive one, and I got to commend him for his thoroughness and his strategy, because he knows what he's doing.
Okay.
That's a
Thanks,
nice
John.
endorsement you just got there.
Thank you. Thank you.
That goes a long way.
I'm Mark Weir. I bought the building at 1060 West 14 Mile. We've had it for about 3 weeks now. And he's right. I'm going to ask two things today. For a TCO, temporary certificate of occupancy. That's going to be the first thing I'm asking for. And I want to understand exactly what a TCO is. Certificate of occupancy is fairly simple. I do the repairs, city inspector comes out, he approves it, I get the certificate of occupancy, and I open up. With that T in the front, that temporary certificate of occupancy puts you on the hook. Because you're basically going by my promise that I'll have these repairs done. And you have to answer to the citizens of Clawson. For instance, if I walk out of here and paint the building pink, citizens are going to say, how did you get a temporary C of O? And they're going to ask the Planning Commission, how did you grant that? So that word promise is a difficult word, especially when I walk out of here. And I've been to a couple of these city meetings, and I see the problems that you have, where the people come back and that promise isn't fulfilled. And then you have to ask again, why not? I had a family problem. I had health issues. I had to go out of town. I had to go on vacation. And I understand that. So what I'm going to do is eliminate those questions of the residents that ask you that. I'm going to give you the ammunition to say, yes, we granted Mr. Weir a TCO because he's done this within a 45-day period. He's got more to go, but he's moving along. So now the question becomes, how do I get that across to you within a 10 to 15 minute standing here, trying to get that across to you? So if I could, come over to here. I own a small real estate portfolio of a few houses. And what I've done to these houses, I've purchased them through HUD when the real estate market was collapsing. And to purchase properties from HUD, you get reports like these.
Just gotta walk with the mic.
Hold that.
You get reports like these. They're a 1/4 inch thick. They have lead-based inspection. They have asbestos inspections. And once you've become notified of these reports on your properties, when you go to sell, you have to disclose it. I can't hide it from the prospective buyer. I have to disclose it and hope that the buyer buys the property at a severely discounted rate, or I fix it. And then I have to show proof that I fixed it. These are just some of the properties that I had purchased. After I purchased them, then I went out and got certificate of occupancies. I do the repairs. These are in Centerline, Warren, East Point, Roseville Housing Commission, where they come out and inspect the property before a tenant can get moved in, because the money that, the rent that I receive is subsidized through a housing commission. So these are all certificate of occupancies, these are licenses, and I understand the system. I really do.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
From the time you bought some of these properties till the time you received your certificate of occupancy, what's the average time that that goes through?
It depends on, if there's environmental issues, it could take 6 months.
But just
Because
an average, just give
average,
me a
I'd
general
say
idea.
about 2 months.
Okay.
2 months to turn them over. I have two other gentlemen, there's three of us that work on these properties. One of them is Dave, and the other one is my brother John. So it's just not myself. Now, in obtaining these, any problem you can think of, it happens. It happens. They don't go smooth. Inspectors come out, no, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. So we always have a backup plan. If this doesn't go, we understand. If we don't understand what the repair is, find out what it is as fast as possible to get the process moving, okay? It's not, the answer is not, well, I didn't understand it, so I didn't fix it. The answer is, I don't know it, find out who the inspector was, explain it to me, and get it fixed, okay?
These inspectors sound like bad seeds.
No, they're,
I'm kidding. I'm
yes,
joking.
I
That's just
understand,
a
I
joke.
understand what you're saying. They're doing what the citizens.
I'm kidding. I'm just making a joke for
what
Jim.
the citizens want. And that's why I'm asking for a temporary certificate of occupancy. So I understand the process. So what I want you to know, my personal life is I'm married, I have a family. My wife is going to be the one that is going to run Haberman Fabrics in the bottom half. Okay? It's been a family business for 60 years, Sam Haberman. He's retired, moved to Arizona. This building, this operation has never been closed for more than 2 to 3 days in a 60-year period. And now we've been closed for about 4 months. There's about 15 people that have been unemployed that are just dying to get back to work. If anybody's passed by Haberman's, you can really see the daily growth that's happening inside the building on the bottom half with the light fixtures, the fabric moving in. So there's a human element to that. Okay. My plan of turning around the building. My first objective is to clean the parking lot and the easement off of 14 Mile. Because the city of Clawson has probably 20, 30, 40,000 people that go through 14 Mile every single day. Just that front easement collects a barrel of trash a day. My observations on that, very simple, go out there and just clean it with a garbage can, get out there and clean it. There's loitering that happens in the front. It looks like loitering when you drive by. It's because there's no benches, there's a bus stop there. So my first objective is to get out there, clean it, get the benches out there, get a garbage can out there. The residents that come in off of Manitou, they're probably so used to seeing that building the way it stands for the past 4 to 5 years, plus the trash that's on the side of the building, plus the parking lot is mine on the east side of Manitou. Right now, the maintenance company is using that parking lot to house their vehicles. I've spoken with them once since I've owned the property, and I've observed the activity that goes in there. All the nice cars come down Manitou, they go into the alley, and they park behind his building. And I'm getting the jalopy trucks on my lot, which he's probably had a run of that lot for the past 3 to 4 years. But as a responsibility, when those residents come down Manitou, they shouldn't be seeing those trucks. So in the next week, I'm going to go reapply my skills in talking and ask him if he could take those trucks and move them off.
And which company is that? Is that
It's the Belbot.
Belbot Service?
Belbot,
Belbot
yeah.
Service, okay, because they're right there. They don't own that building next to your lot. They're
No.
another building down.
Right. I own the first lot right off of Manitou.
Right.
And then there's another building. And I'm trying to be a good neighbor. You know, I don't want to come in there sounding hard-headed and say, get those off. So I'm going to give them a little bit more time to take those vehicles and maybe move them back. But I will let them use the nicer cars and put them on my lot. Okay, because the residents have a responsibility. I saw a gentleman coming down the street one day, and he was walking out of that residence the neighborhood behind the store. And I could just see, you know, he was looking at the trash, the cars, and they just don't deserve that. So it's my responsibility, owning that lot, I'm gonna get that fixed up.
I understand you're also entering into a shared parking agreement with Noble Appliance?
Yes.
Because of your lots there?
Yep.
Is that underway, or is that
Yeah,
progressing?
it's already in effect. Noble
Oh.
Appliance is, it's worked out good. They're
Good.
taking one side, we're taking the other side.
Yeah, okay,
Uh,
very good.
Eventually, our employees will probably park on the east side of Manitou
Right,
to free up their parking a little bit more when we start working on it.
good.
Yeah, it's working good. I own the ugliest building on 14 Mile, in
No.
my opinion.
No.
No, I know, I'm exaggerating there, okay? On my properties, I want you to get to know me a little bit on the properties that I have. I can't control the inside of the tenant's properties, but I can control the outside. I just recently evicted a tenant of mine, had been there for 4 years, paid the rent like clockwork, but he didn't know what a garbage can was. So those residents that come down that street and see that garbage all over that's my house. I owe it to the residents to get that property cleaned up as fast as possible. And I'm gonna do the simplest things first. The back alley, the front yard, the grass cutting, the bushes, the trees, alongside the long street, all the beer bottles. I understand there were vacant lots. There's a bar 2 doors down. A lot of people use that parking lot. That's all gotta get cleaned up. All that has to stop right away. What I've done to the building so far. Very simple. Picked up the litter, repaired the front sliding doors for proper release, fire release, so people can get in and out, so employees can get in and out of the building. Outside, I removed the broken fixtures, the light fixtures that were on top of the building. I removed the windows, the sticky signs, all the old phone numbers that were on the building. I retiled the bathroom, put new fixtures in. I removed the drop ceiling, removed the old ductwork. The ductwork that was on there was the old duct board that collected the dirt. So we took the drop ceiling down, and then I hired a heating and cooling company to put new stainless steel runs, much more efficient, cost saving for me, better for the eyes, and better for the customers that come into the building. New carpeting, fire extinguishers, emergency exits, and emergency lights in case there was a power outage. New light fixtures. We came over with the LED lighting. We took down the old,
Fluorescents?
yes, these type of lights. We took down 60 of them at 2,000 pounds. When the new LED lights came in, the kid was putting them together. I think he grabbed 5 lights at a time. And I just got a kick out of that because it was the new LED lights, you know, they're so light and they're just like paper thin up there. But I don't know why I'm talking about that one, but
That was a sidebar.
yeah. We painted the interior, we painted the ceiling. We're gonna leave it open, no more drop ceiling, so everything will be exposed. All the wires, all the old wires were taken down. We installed new door locks, we replaced broken drywall. We ordered 2 front windows after we got them all cleaned up. The gas, it goes for the appearance of the building. The gas that's inside the double pane windows, we ordered 2 new windows for that. So we've done quite a bit. Now, comes the contractors. This is the cost issue. Okay, I've gotten several repairs, several proposals, some of them good, some of them bad. Obviously, to get it done right, the roofing, the parking lots. This goes to the site assessment. I'm hoping to get these done by May 31st, which I don't see a problem. One of the reasons why I'm asking for a temporary C of O, so the funds from the store can start generating some money, but that's not my only plan to generate money. I also have, this is what I was talking about before, always have like a backup plan. Some of those individual properties that I've owned are on the market. So I'm just not sitting there waiting for the profits of the store. I also have an alternative to get extra money So I don't have to come before the board on May 31st to say, why didn't I get it done? And then my excuse would be, well, the sales weren't good enough. So I have another plan going on at the same time. I have some real estate for sale to hit this mark on May 31st to get the site assessment completed. And that's about it. I'm going to keep it short. There's probably 10 other things that I should have asked for. And the second thing that I was going to ask for was no bond. And I know that puts you in a difficult spot. Because without the bond assures the panel here that I have a lot of money on the table, and that's really your only recourse is to hold the money, and it forces me to pay. It forces me to get the project done on time. I'm running low on funds. That's the truth of it. The major repairs are coming up, and one of the problems that I have when I bring in the contractors, they smell blood.
Right.
They know I'm up against the city council. They know, or not the city council, the site planning. They know I have to get this item done, and they believe that I can't paint the outside of the building. I can paint the outside of the building. I've painted houses before. So I get a proposal to paint the building for $18,000. If you figure that out in 8-hour days, I think that's like $700 an hour. When I look at his proposal, it's a weak proposal. It doesn't tell me how much the paint is. It doesn't tell me how much the tape is. It doesn't tell me what the latex is. He doesn't tell me how many hours, because he knows I'm up against it. Now, some of my proposals are really good. Bellbot is excellent. I think his price is too high, but he details every item. He tells me how much each plant is going to cost. He tells me what the labor is. He breaks it down on the trees, how much I'm going to spend for the trees. That's an excellent proposal. He's still a little high. I'm letting him use my lot 24/7. I don't think you guys have that one.
No, we don't have the
Yeah, I
Bellbot.
just got this one on Friday morning.
And I don't think, were we supposed to have the painting one also?
Yeah.
It's on the back.
You should have the painting one.
Bill's cut,
I didn't realize that.
Bill's cut the pin.
You're right. Nope, you're right. Double-sided. Didn't realize
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
We're safe.
And
Cost
Nelson
effectiveness.
Brothers, I'm sorry, Nelson Brothers gives me a great proposal to, Mr. Drinkwine asked me if I could camera the main drains, the sewer drains, to make sure they're PVCs and they're not clogged. And they gave me an excellent what the results were. For the 2 catch basins that need repair, they're sinking. Excellent proposal. He details that what I expect to happen when I start saw cutting the drains. The parking lot's in bad shape. I could start losing part of my parking lot. Great proposals there. Detroit Elliott.
Can you give us a total cost?
I'm probably
Projection?
looking at around $80,000.
Yeah, that's what I've added up
Yep.
coming.
Approximately $80,000 to the roof. Excellent proposal. He details to me what type of boarding he's going to use, how he's going to screw it down to the roof, how he's going to seal it, coping the edges of the roof. Excellent proposal. He details everything, but it's at a cost of $36,000. I could come in there and just nurse it like everybody else has, and patch it here, patch here. But this is a fabric store going on the bottom half.
Right, you don't have water coming
Yeah,
in.
I mean, but I can tell you the last month the weather has been fantastic to find out where the leaks are, because I've had snow and rain and melting and snow and rain and melting, and Mr. Elbis on our last meeting pointed out that you have water leaks somewhere in the building from past complaints, and I was able to determine where those water leaks are, and luckily they're on the edge and the intrusion on the skirting of the HVAC systems. They've been retard probably 10 times, just over and over and over again. They need to be stripped down, a cone around it, and then retard properly. And I couldn't nurse this problem and just keep doing the same thing. Putting tar on it, just get through. The bottom 10 is gonna be my wife. How bad can she complain to me? You know, I could get away with it, but it's not the right thing to do. Because there's gonna be some day when I go to sell this building. And then there's gonna be some young kid coming up to me and telling me, listen, mister, you got problems, you got this. Now, I'm gonna say, no, I put a new roof on there. I want top dollar. I did the windows, I did the grass, I did the parking lot correct. I did my catch basins correct. So, I'm asking for a temporary C of O. No bond, maybe 60 days. I'll take 45. 45 days, we'll have Mr. Albus come back out, and he can see the improvements, and if they're not good enough, I'll come back in here.
Yeah, we have a list of 14 items here, and a lot of them that you mentioned, I think you've already taken care of.
Yes,
Replacing
Mr.
broken
Albus came
windows.
out yesterday.
So a lot of these are already checked off of our list here of things to do. So you're requesting we normally do a 60-day TCO
Yeah, I think we could do a 60-day, and I think that.
and revisit at that point in time?
Yeah, but I think what would be helpful in the interim is Mr. Ware advising administration what substantial progress has been made, so he can feed that to you. So
Okay.
you have an ongoing activity, accomplishment, and you know the road is that you're coming to the end.
Right.
But I have a couple of questions in regards to some of the stuff, first of all. And this actually is for us. So this roofing proposal, was this required in his site plan to have this work done? Or is this work that he's electing to do on his own?
Yeah, no, the estimates that you got, as I said at the beginning, mix site work with building work.
Yes, some of it's required, some is
The
not.
site is the site work.
Site work,
The
okay.
stuff
And that
that was
total
on
was
your site
approximately
plan.
50,000? And that total, well, how much was the total for just the
Well,
site
it's,
work?
it's difficult to
required?
glean from, we didn't have complete information when we sent out the packets because the landscaping wasn't there. But the catch basins, which you saw, which was 15,000,
Recoding,
20,000.
20,000 for the parking lot.
20,000 for the parking lot resealing, and then whatever the landscaping bid was.
Landscaping came in around 6,000, I believe, 5,700, and then the painting came in at 17,000.
Painting is not really a site work
Right.
item either.
Right.
So you're saying about 30,
It's about
41,000 was site required?
Right.
Approximately, give or take, but that was the site required. And can I ask, you said your second part is you're asking for no bond. Remind me, a bond is usually a percentage. I mean, when you take out a surety bond, you pay a premium that's a percentage of the total. You don't actually put down 40,000.
Right. So, the city allows, city attorney will correct me if I'm wrong, but city allows one of three forms of security: cash deposit, which would be the total amount;
Right.
a letter of credit, which just means that you have that much money in the bank, and the bank is not going to let you withdraw that as long as that letter of credit is in your hands, or
Which
a
is
surety,
almost like
or
a
a
cash
surety
deposit.
bond. Performance bond is a subset of surety bonds in general. As you say, you pay a fee for those to an insurance company or the like to guarantee that you will do the work.
And, I mean, letter of credit and cash deposit almost sounds like the same thing, because if you can't access your cash, whether you give it to you or leave it at the bank, it's still inaccessible cash.
You could potentially be earning interest on it if it
Okay,
was.
but I
the
mean, the
bank.
big chunk of it's inaccessible. So I guess my question is, the surety bond would be a percentage of that, because I'm going to tell you, right off the bat, consistency and fairness, and we require surety bonds out of, and this is over and over and over again, and whether I love what's going in, because I love what's going in, or not, it's not a question of, that's not the question. The question is fair treatment and consistent treatment of everybody. So my question is, I guess, why is the surety bond part, if it's, I know it costs more than you want, but again, it's one of those business things. Nobody wants to spend money they don't have to, but why is that off the table? Why is that not something we can do? Why is that something you don't want to do? I understand the first two. You don't want to take your cash out of circulation. I get that, totally.
Be honest with you, I get the idea of the bond process, the cash bond, or I'm not really sure. You're calling it a surety bond, but I tend to call it on the outside in the streets that you just take a percentage of what the total costs are. Is that my meaning?
That's usually what a bond is. They say, you know what, I'm just going to make numbers up, for $500 or, whatever percent of this, for $500, we're going to say if you default, we will pay this $50,000. You pay the insurance company the $500. You never see your $500 again. But if you walk away, we're guaranteed to see our $500 or our $50,000. And so, yeah, that kind of ends up being an extra cost to you, but it's a much smaller percentage than the total amount of the repairs.
I do know of a couple insurance companies that do that, but like I said, I've never gone down that road.
And we didn't make any progress on what I asked about last time, because this seems to fit right into why I raised that issue about we should have this template or instruction or something available that we can hand to these and say, boom.
I had the direction to produce it the 23rd.
Oh, I know, I'm just asking, but this does follow.
So I do have a performance bond. It's a bastardized, version, because you generally have a surety, contractor, or owner. Generally, we're talking about the owner doing it and putting up the money. So.
And we don't think we can figure out what a bond needs to look like by, when did you want to open?
You will have
What was the TCO we were looking for? We didn't get a date, did we?
No.
Well, he said 60 days, I think.
No, but I mean, so he wants it as
Today.
effective when?
Yeah, like
Today?
today.
Oh, okay,
Today, yeah.
so, gotcha.
And in the documents, you'll have standard language, but you'll have fill-ins, because there are always variations.
But since he didn't have anything like that and he wasn't quite sure, he wasn't able to take those steps or not comfortable taking those steps.
We talked about that.
Yeah,
We did talk about it, and
he informed me of a few ways I could go.
Yeah.
I was not familiar with that aspect, and we were coming up so short on time, so I just wanted to come here.
The reason we ask for a bond is to assure that the job is going to be completed. And the other option we have, if we give you a TCO, like you said, it's a temporary, which means it will have an expiration date with it. At that point in time, we hate to kick people out at that point in time, but at that point in time, we could close the place down.
Yep.
Or we
I know
could,
that's
or have you in for a show cause as to why these,
Yep.
that's
We
the
done
only,
that ever?
those are the other hammers that we have, aside from taking money.
I understand if I abuse it, that
Right.
you do have the power to walk up to that front door and say, Mr. Weir, you need to close.
You're closed, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not an either or. We've established a process where TCOs require
Bonds.
the bond.
Yeah.
So it's
I
not
believe 100% that you are going to do everything you said and then some. There is no doubt in my mind that you have the highest integrity and greatest intent, and that bus hopefully will not hit you next week that, stops all this. But it has nothing to do, my question has nothing to do with you or your reputation or your integrity. It has everything to do with our
process.
No, I absolutely agree with that, because we just went through this process through the last meeting.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
not quite sure why, or if it was explained to you that this was an option to have no bond, because it's not been the process and that's not been I just want to make sure you weren't misinformed at any stage that.
I believe it's,
no, I explained
It's
that
our
the history has been a bond.
Yes.
But I said you can go in and make your pitch.
Okay.
it's going to be our call whether we ask for the
I know,
bond or
I just
not.
want to make sure that that wasn't, your expectations weren't.
No, I was aware that it was your call. And like I informed the attorney that I'd still like to get in front. And
Just step right in front of the mic. There you go.
I still wanted to get in front and give it a try. Like I said, if the money was there, I would just say, what's the amount, and just keep right on going. But
So what if you were in a position where you, as best we understand in a surety bond, where you have to put up a certain percentage of it? Would that be something you think you might have the capability of working?
I'm never going to say no to that. I got to find a way.
Keeping in mind only for the amount that's on the site plan, not for
Right,
your
so we're not looking at the
total.
full
I just wanna-
80,000.
No, that's
Just
not
the
our.
site
And does
plan.
that
Just the site
differentiate
plan
between the lower level occupancy and the second level occupancy? Or is that marginal?
I don't think we have to worry because they're not.
They're
putting
not,
anybody
they're
up
not
there.
seeking occupancy for the second floor.
Part of- okay.
That's not, that's never been
And
part
that's
of
not
their
part of these
request.
costings, right? This 41 doesn't include,
Correct.
okay, so we
That's-
can't get it down any lower.
I mean,
Well, you can do some of the work. Right. you know, and then it
Not
gets
by
down
tomorrow
lower.
or
But
today
yeah,
or
probably
whatever.
not by tomorrow. That's
Whatever
certainly
they-
true.
Apparently he wants it today.
You know, I mean, I guess you can conclude that, you know, a fair, you know, as he said, maybe you got gouged on some of the quotes, and that a fair sum would be 30,000. You know,
That's true.
So in other words, we could potentially compromise on the amount and still hold our integrity as a commission.
Correct.
And require the bond.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I could, I could.
We've done that before. We've done, because even sometimes we don't even have quotes in front of us, right? So we've
Right.
got to
Right.
just give our best ballpark on things that we don't even know how
I
much.
could be comfortable with that compromise.
I mean, we could make
honestly
we could come up with a ballpark number where you just say, like, let's say $500 to show goodwill, and let it go at that, if that's reasonable. You know.
Oh, no, no, the percentage.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, we can't do that because $500 for what? Like, is that just us holding $500 of his? Because we can't put a surety bond.
We have no dollar figure here in front of us to establish,
I think we do.
Yeah, we do. We've got
Yeah, we do.
41,000.
We've got catch basin, we've got
Well,
paint, we don't have the.
going back by those numbers, okay, but not some of the other
Can't-
items.
Paint isn't under our preview, though, correct?
Right.
So really,
Well, I
so
mean,
we're
but
just
saying
looking
as far
at
as-
the catch basin and the outside,
the paving, the landscaping, the
Which we don't,
catch basin
what was the,
work.
I'm sorry,
Totaled
the
about
dollar value on the
41,000.
landscaping?
Landscaping.
5,700.
okay. So let's write these numbers down. And then we're talking about, what's the next one?
So we're going to calculate off of
We have the
that.
catch basin.
20,000, the center mark ceiling coating, that's one under our preview.
Yep.
That's $20,000, so that's 25. And what's the other one?
Wait, hold on a second. You got
Nelson
6,000.
Brothers. The catch basins, that's under Nelson Brothers, that should be about $15,000. There's the parking lot, the seal coating one, that's 20,000, and then the landscaping quote from Belmont was 56,
So
57.
35, so 41.
Okay.
Yep.
But like you said, there's a possibility that these people may have come in with these, like you said, smelling blood in the water and thinking, you know, we're going to push as high as we can for this. So we have the option of saying, we think that this work could feasibly also be done in a, just say $20,000 range. Maybe it can, maybe it can't. But then
I don't know
we
if
could
I'd
set the
go
bond at
half.
something like that.
30. I was going to say 30. I don't know if I'd go half, but
Okay,
I
that's
could
fine.
live with 30.
2750?
Oh, sure. Just,
Do you see what we're talking about here? Then you
Yes.
see how we're,
Yes, I understand. I guess then what would be the percentage of the,
well, that's up to the
2750.
insurance person. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
up
let
to
me,
the
let me ask this
insurance.
question. So we had somebody come in here the last meeting, right? We took their dollar value and we held them to that.
We bumped his dollar value up $5,000 because he was doing he had 1099 all of his
He
work.
was doing something that really wasn't required. It was more for the building owner than him himself.
Well, but the building owner ended up putting up the bond.
Okay, I mean, there was where-
Those weren't hard, remember, he just had his own little
Sure.
numbers he had created, and so
Right.
you
We didn't
added
have
to that.
estimates.
These are real
Yeah,
bids,
these are
Yeah.
bids.
you know, and
Well, I guess what I'm saying, do we have that from the previous applicant? Has he
yeah, he brought
fulfilled
his
it?
bond in.
Okay.
Did you get multiple bids for any of these projects?
no,
And when did you take occupancy of the building?
2.5, about 20 days ago.
Okay.
so are we still on that route to talk about looking at that price and saying, okay, here's what we think that you should get a surety bond? And do we think it's 10%, right? That's really going to be up to the bond company, but we're thinking, as we understand it, you would be required to put down 10% of that and say, this is, you know, now you assured us that you're going to do this, and if you don't do it, then we know we've got someone that's going to pay for all that work at $27,000 as opposed to, right now, what we're seeing quotes for $41,000. Does that make sense? Does everyone agree that that's what we want to do?
So our round number right now, target for completion of those items is $41,000. Is that,
Right. And we're asking for a bond of $27,000.
27 is still a significant amount of money. You know, he's not going to want to give, yeah. I
Right.
mean, that's totally fine with me.
It's a percentage of 27,000.
Yeah, and then obviously his portion would be a percentage of that, yep.
I mean, we would love to say no bond to you. I think I can speak for a majority of people here, just from what you're doing, but it's a precedent that doesn't make sense for us to set. Because we just, with so many other businesses, we stand by this policy. You know, we have to make sure the work's done, because there has been times we've gotten taken advantage of because we haven't done that.
Right.
Don't feel that you would do that, but I think that that's where we are.
Okay.
No, I understand. I mean, it's the policy, and we have to accept it, and whatever the decision is there, then I've got to start acting on that.
Now, a question that I'm asking to the board here, because I'm not 100% sure the answer here, is he allowed to get a TCO and open tomorrow, even though we've set this and said he needs to do that first? Or does he have to do it first? This is
Well, we
kind
have
of
an
a
issue
question.
with someone else who did a TCO but didn't get the bond, and now we still don't have the,
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Sam.
how long would it take, you guys know this better than we do, how long does it take to get one of
We
these
could-
bonds, for heaven's sakes? Isn't it a phone call to a surety agent and a signature and a check?
It's generally a phone call to an insurance agent or a bond company,
I
and
know
they'll
there's-
give you the requirements that they need on the application, and the percentage can vary. It's probably under 10% of what the total amount is, but
So this could feasibly happen by tomorrow noon?
it
If someone gets
could.
on the phone at 8 AM?
It could. I mean, yeah.
We could grant approval with the provision that staff receives the appropriate
Exactly.
information.
Yeah, I like that. And knowing that it's reasonable because it really could happen that quickly, so he can get what he needs. And the staff is available to help him do that if there's any. Okay.
Yeah, anytime you approve it, you're authorizing Jim to grant it when he's ready with the building construction.
But I just want to make sure I
And when all the
was
ducks
reasonable
are
in
in a
my
row.
assumption you could get a bond that quickly if that's what, and it sounds like you can, so, okay.
Is there another walkthrough that has to happen, Jim? Or did you do it yesterday?
Just the walkthrough on what he's mounting the fire extinguishers, just the safety issues.
Okay.
So,
You ready for a motion?
Motion?
I think we're pretty much in agreement on that then.
You're all looking at me, aren't you?
You're the
are.
motion man.
You're the guy with the calculator.
Whole audiences, too.
Yeah, I know, same here. I know, I promise to get this under 15 minutes, right?
That's okay, we got all night.
Yeah, I know. So, hold on a second. Okay, so we're saying, what's the dollar value we've come to?
27,000.
27,000, okay. Okay, and we want this completed by, May 31st, okay. Okay, 1 second. All right.
That's more than 45 days. That's more than
Well,
45.
that's what we've been giving everybody that
Okay.
is bond.
So it's not a 45-day TCO, it's through May 31st?
Yeah, that's what we've done
We've
for
done
everyone.
them before.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion that temporary certificate of occupancy be considered for approval for 1060 West 14 Mile upon obtaining of necessary security for project completion in the amount of $27,000 and to the satisfaction of city building management with project completion by May 31st.
2018.
2018, thank you.
No problem.
I'll second that.
Anyone else?
Nope.
So do I have a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did,
I got it.
Scott.
We're going to approve the TCO. Jim's going to actually approve it if these conditions are met. Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Prowse?
Yes.
Ms. Scripture?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Fenton?
Yes?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Welcome to Clawson.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to it.
Yes, we are.
This door.
Just out of curiosity, Greg, we wouldn't take classic Corvettes as collateral, would we?
Bubblegum cars, but cards, but not cars.
Okay,
Cards, but not cars.
just thought I'd ask.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ware.
Agenda item number 8 is a request for a site plan approval for 116 through 120 South Main Street in the City Center District.
So we've had this before you a few times. As you'll recall, it's here to amend a previously approved site plan because the canopy on the building had come down. And so they're proposing a new facade for the front of the building. And we reviewed, in the first part of the report, the original conditions of approval, of which there were 8. Essentially, they are now either in compliance or proposing to come into compliance by virtue of what's shown on the site plan with those 8 conditions. And then we reviewed in a limited way the new site plan, focusing only on the amendment that is proposed. And I make that point because you'll recall that property right next door was just before you last meeting, and they had a whole new site plan. And as part of that whole new site plan, they ended up having to do a knee wall and a fence. Part of it's actually just a fence along Main Street that will end at this property line. And so, I want to point that out to you and explain why the process has proceeded differently, so there's not any confusion on that. But as I say, we treated this when it came in as being limited to the facade and an amendment to an already approved site plan that had been approved before those changes to the ordinance came into effect. So with respect to what's shown on the plan now, you can see from my underlining, there's really only kind of 2 issues that I had. The size and species of the new landscaping that's shown is not called out, so that needs to be provided and be consistent with the minimum sizes contained in the land development regulations. And then we still have an issue with, there are things for you to discuss, obviously, in terms of the screening for the mechanical equipment. I think he's got some materials here to show you, but I think they followed the guidance that you gave them last time in terms of coming up with something that was more consistent with the facade materials. Then the other issue that I identified as still kind of unresolved is the signage. So that is implicated within what they're requesting, which is a new facade. And as we've talked about quite a few times now, your new city center district regulations require that there be a conceptual plan for tenant signage done as part of the site plan approval. They did now put a note on there indicating that it would be channel letters on a raceway. I guess 2 things about that. And so that would be sufficient, except it says, except as otherwise approved by the planning commission, and I don't think that's appropriate. I think that it's the responsibility of the applicant to provide the design guidance so that when the building department is faced with applications for sign permits, they can act on those and they don't have to keep coming back here before the planning commission and trying to make the planning commission the bad guys to say no to the tenants. It's between the landlord and the tenant. They pick the scheme. If you approve of it, then everybody can have signs like that. I guess the other thing that I would recommend you inquire into is how that's going to exactly work on this sort of facade. We had that on the Tracus building down the street, and that was a drive-it facade, and the raceway was painted to match the facade. Here you have a metal facade, and so I'm not quite sure how the raceway is going to work on that metal facade, and so maybe the applicant can explain how that would work to you. But if you're okay with that as a concept, I would just do away with the portion of the note that says, or as otherwise approved by the planning commission. They're asking for approval of a certain thing, and if you approve it, that's the rules for what kind of signs go on the building. So I'm okay with, we're okay with the approval, as we were last time, subject to certain recommended conditions. We're down to only 3 that we recommend if you're of a like mind.
Can I embarrass myself real quickly?
Sure.
Something I'm very easy at. I really should sit down in front of my computer and go look up every kind of sign there is, but describe for me what a raceway.
It's just.
Because you're saying it might not fit,
It's just like a strip like a furring strip to which you attach the letters. So the letters are individual letters, and then this is the strip to which they attach, right?
So it's not like a foundational thing with letters on top of it, it's something down here and they're kind of freestanding
I
on
think
that.
there's 2, Jim would know better than me, probably, but I
I think
think
it's
there's probably
shown on
2 channels
Can that
that
be,
they attach to.
zoom in on where it says tenant sign. I think it should indicate, right?
Okay, not the drawing, because that
Yeah.
doesn't, what
So
are,
it's- Look at that, I'm amazed.
There it is.
So,
so what is the raceway?
There's
That
only
little
one
line?
raceway on
strip
that one. I
that's-
think
The strip
sometimes there's
behind
2.
there should be 2.
Okay.
It's not a box sign, it's
Okay.
freestanding.
Electrical.
So it's like freestanding letters, or it looks like freestanding letters.
Right, they look like they're freestanding, but then the power for them runs in that raceway, so that they
Okay.
can be lit up.
So then I guess, and just so I understand, when we're, for this last thing, would we be saying that the whole building has to be consistently raceway signs? Or are we saying that it can be
Well,
anything in our plethora of allowed signs?
No, if you approve of that, I mean, you're not saying what it has to be, they're proposing something, and you're saying, okay, that's okay. That seems architecturally consistent, that seems like it's going to be consistent from one space to another, so it's not gonna look like a hodgepodge of all different kind of signs.
But that's my question. All the signs then would need to be a raceway sign.
That's what they would be, just like so that's what you approved for the Tracus building, and so now all of
And
those
now I know what
signs
that
are
is. Okay.
channel letters on a raceway that are painted some special color to match.
But they have different color options.
For the letters,
Whatever
not
they
for the
Yeah,
raceway.
in other words, one store could be red, one blue,
Yep.
Okay.
et
You
cetera.
can leave the color options up to Jim's purview rather than ours.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
I have a concern about this because at the last meeting, we talked about the Art Collective sign, which would not meet these requirements, and I believe that's why he put that statement in, saying that it's up to the planning commission or our discretion
Yeah,
to
so
allow for
if we
a
accept
different
this,
type of sign.
then that would no longer, and without the
That's,
clause that says it's up to the planning commission, then that sign would no longer be in compliance, or how would that work?
Correct.
That's why I'm asking. That's what I was
Right.
trying to make sure. I
That's
was
what
clear
we-
on.
yeah, that's what
Someone's
we're
going to lose in this game, is
Yep.
what this boils down to.
Well, or describe it inclusively enough to include that, right?
That was my
But then-
next,
so
that
then
was
the
my question when but that's what I asked.
But we've all said, you've all said, I don't have an opinion on the matter, but you've all said that the plexiglass sign isn't gonna go, right? And so don't leave it to yourselves to be the bad guys and have, that tenant come in and say, well, we wanna keep our plexiglass sign, and you say, no.
Right.
Right, I get
This
that
is,
part.
this is the time to decide. What note covers it?
I get, okay, I get that.
have a sign ordinance? You have a sign ordinance, right? It covers that.
Yes,
You
but
have a sign ordinance. So any sign that is approved in the city.
That is not.
You approach the microphone, please.
you have to cover the mic to speak to us. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Parr. I'm the owner of Pure Balance Massage. I'm the owner of the plexiglass sign in question right now. And huh?
I said, which is a nice sign. We're just.
I
consistency.
would like to know exactly why the I mean, I understand the consistency, but part of it is, I'm a new business. That was within my budget when I opened. Also, I'm not up, my lease is becoming up for renewal. I have not, sorry.
It's okay.
nervous.
Take your time.
I have not had a chance to sit down with Rafael yet to discuss our lease, and all of a sudden I'm being asked to provide a new sign. As I said, I'm a new business. Signs are not cheap, as I'm sure you guys are all well aware. what I ask is, I'm not against changing my sign. I would like to change it to fit my identity, not necessarily a raceway, because in my opinion, that doesn't fit my identity as a business. I ask for time to change my sign and not have to do it right when all this construction's being done. I'm asking for time so I can get the funds and make sure that I can put it into my budget for marketing.
What kind of time are you asking?
Well, I haven't had a chance to even sit down and discuss my lease renewal yet, so I'd like to at least be able to do that with him, to find out how much that will be. I would like, and I'm not sure when this project will even go under construction. When we had the awning removed, our sign had to go down. We saw a decrease in sales. I'm not sure how long this construction will last, and so I know I'm going to see a decrease in sales. I would like at least a 6 months to a year to be able to figure out the budget with my new business, with accruing the, making up for the costs that I've already accrued from the build-out and my current sign, to be able to purchase a new sign.
Okay.
Yeah, the problem becomes rather obvious here. If the,
Would just like to say, as the one of the landlords of this property, we are not necessarily in favor of, channel letters on a raceway. We've been pushed in this direction, but without having any sort of out, it makes it difficult. If we're allowed to approve different signs, what we've copied here is that's actually the sign ordinance currently for the city of Clawson. So we want all of the signs to be in compliance with the ordinance, but and then obviously we've had to add that language about the channel letter, but, we'd like some flexibility in the end. I mean, what if everyone changes, all the tenants there change, and, channel letters are no longer a viable option?
So what the city center district is intended to do, and we've been through this quite a bit now already, is to allow and also require an applicant to choose a theme for their signs that A, they want, and B, that is architecturally consistent. With the Tarakis property, we found that, for example, box signs, which are completely permissible under the land development regulations, would not be appropriate on that building, and those were excluded. They chose the theme. You approved it. You're not dictating that they be channel letters. You're going to approve anything that they put on their plan that you find to be consistent with the standard for the city center district, which is different than wall signs in general, that they be architecturally consistent both with one another and with the building. And you don't dictate what that means. You could conclude that all the signs are. We've had the discussion, and you've sort of concluded that they aren't all. But again, the city does not come in and require anybody to take down signs that were put up lawfully, right? The signs came down because the front of the building came down. Now, unfortunately, that was not the city that took the front of the building down. But once that happens, the signs that were there no longer have a non-conforming status. A new sign permit has to be pulled. A new sign permit has to be consistent with the ordinance that's in existence today. Just like the site plan approval has to be consistent with the ordinance that's in existence today. And so they need to bring to you a site plan now, and we've limited the scope of our review to only those things that are affected by the new city center district regulations, i.e. those things that relate to the facade itself. But as far as that's concerned, it must be consistent with the new city center district regulations that require signs to be architecturally compatible and approved as part of the site plan. So they can put any note they want on there that is within the broad constraints of the types of signs that are allowed in the city. And if you find that to meet that standard, for architectural consistency, then you will approve it. And that will be the rule for all their tenants. You're not dictating what those signs are, you're just reacting to what they propose.
I think you have our proposal in front of you, and I think that we would agree with that, Greg. I guess the language that we've added on at the end there just allows a tenant who may have a different type of sign, may have a unique idea, at least the opportunity and chance to come before the Planning Commission, express their feelings on the matter, and have a chance to have a sign that they want for their business. So,
And that affects what your statement as far as to be channel letter.
well, it has to be channel letter unless someone wants to take the prerogative to come before you.
But you've put
and
it on your plan.
Yes,
Okay. So, I mean, that's you doing that.
yes, we've
Okay.
done that, yes. We have done that.
And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, from what Greg just said, we're not in a position to tell you to use channel letters or raceway mounting. You could come, but someone within your shopping center, someone's sign is not going to meet, because, right, the signs don't match right now.
Sure.
And so we're saying we need to see some consistency.
During our last meeting, I believe we said that the proposal from Landry Palace would meet what we have here, that the Art Collective would also meet what we have here, and that the antique sign would also meet what we have here. And the only one that was at issue was Pure Balance Massage.
Okay.
And so Pure Balance Massage has come. I've asked her to come and join us today to express her thoughts on her sign, obviously, and where she stands on it.
Well, I'm going to argue that particular point, Scott, just for the fact that we know we have individual businesses, and the young lady's sign was good before, right?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, so what if they were all like that one?
Well, but then we'd be asking everyone else to change their sign to match her sign, and everyone else wants to have channel letters.
Okay,
on
but-
their sign.
At Laundry Palace yet, right?
No, but he has a proposal, and he's put a proposal in front of you.
Now, all proposals aside, I mean, okay, she has a sign, Laundry Palace has a sign, and they're not the same businesses either. So, like she mentioned about sales, when people are looking for a place of their interest to either support, okay, they see her sign, and that's a designated area for that particular thing. Now, if she was an individual building, it wouldn't be a problem, right?
But it's not.
Yes, sir.
Well, at the point where you had a site, if it was in the city center district, even if it were an individual building, at the point where you reviewed the site plan, there would be a proposal for what the sign was going to be. And you decide whether that proposal was acceptable as being architecturally compatible with the building.
Okay, so based on that, if she presented that sign, it would be acceptable then?
I don't know. That's not my choice. That's your choice.
Oh, right.
You
I
know,
mean, theoretically, we're
you know,
saying,
you might or might not think that that is
Can we
consistent with that
define
building.
architecturally consistent? Is it the signs consistent? Is it the consistent with the building? Is it, can consistency mean all raceway or all the same color but different types? I mean, what, can you help me with
That's
our?
up to you to interpret, right? I mean,
Kind of arbitrary.
But it's also what they,
It's your
it's also
standard
what they
that gives you
present
guidance.
as far as on their site plan, right? So now,
So I guess my next question is, so when you're planning this, when you're putting together this site plan, are you meeting with all of your tenants and trying to come up with something that's consistent or
Certainly.
some agreement? I mean, did you?
Certainly.
If she has her sign her way, and maybe it's the colors that's consistent with that, was there a meeting that said, gee, could we all agree on something along these lines? I mean, what was the, and why isn't, and is it on the plan?
We were asked to come up with a defined scope of what the signs would be.
So this is then what you met with your tenants, and this is what you came up with?
We were asked to come up with a defined scope, so it couldn't be too broad. We were going to put simply actually just the code provision up there, but we were told that that would not be enough. We'd have to make some additions to it and define it a bit further than that. So we're not going to be able to please everyone if we go, to this level of detail. That's why we've left, unless otherwise approved by the Planning Commission and the landlord there. But we could take out Planning Commission and say unless otherwise approved by the landlord.
Well, you don't get to give
Not-
yourself a
not a
variance to
chance.
what the planning commission approves. At the end of the day, the planning
So, well,
commission has
it would still have to meet the code
We're not
provision,
approving
obviously.
individual signs. We're approving the consistency, the theme, what you're proposing to be. We're not approving individual signs.
Sure.
All I'm asking is that when you chose your theme and your, whatever you're gonna do, did you meet with everybody, and did you all just come to some sort of?
The tenants are here, and the one that's affected is here as well. We've met with everyone that.
Well, they don't have
There's
to
a-
meet with us, they have to meet with you to
They've
come up
met,
with a
we've
consistency.
certainly met with everyone. We've certainly met with everyone.
And you couldn't agree?
I'm not sure what you mean, because they've asked, the city has asked, the planner has asked us to come up with a defined scope of what the signs will be. So if some of the tenants are going to have channel letters on a raceway, then that would be the defined scope. You know, if there's some language that we can make it, if there's something that we can do that would please the planner and make it broad enough to include the Pure Balance massage sign, then of course we'd be in favor of that.
Asking for then is permission to have a non-conforming sign.
Well,
Right?
I mean, I would say that it conforms potentially.
But it doesn't conform.
Well, it's in your opinion, right? If it's architecturally compatible or not, is it architecturally compatible with the building? All right,
I
well
mean,
then no, then.
But because you've said that that's not what you want.
Well, no. What we want is we want the tenant signs to a certain degree match and be architecturally compatible with the building, certainly. Do we want to let the tenants have some leeway in terms of matching their signs to each other? Yes, we do. Were we able to come up with a defined scope of what the signs would look like that would meet everyone's expectations? No, we were not. We were not. I mean, if 3 of the tenants are going to have, channel letters on our raceway, then the 4th tenant is either going to have channel letters on our raceway, or they're going to have to seek approval.
Let me ask you,
You could
owner,
end
so
up with-
is it your intent at some point in time to do something with your sign, or just keep it as is?
I would like to look at different options. Right now, I haven't really looked into it because our building has been under construction.
Sure,
I would like it to be consistent.
By the mic, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'm
you're right.
sorry.
No, you're right. I shouldn't have asked you there.
Yeah, I would eventually like to do something with my sign. I like the sign as it is. I like it for a startup business. My intent is to grow my business, and as I grow my business, I would like to change my sign to reflect that growth. However, I'm just not there yet. I haven't even been in business for 2 years.
Okay. Now, at the beginning, and I'm sorry, what was your name?
Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth. At the beginning, when you started talking about your sign, you had mentioned that you're not opposed to conforming, but some time was requested on that. I think you said 6 months to a year. We don't have to talk about the exact dates right this minute, but the point being, I guess, do we have any leeway in that? Because what I'm seeing right now is that we have taking out the otherwise approved by the Planning Commission, right? But if we approve this in some way, shape, or form with a secondary, addendum or whatnot of her sign to give her time and flexibility, what that does present is that now we have conformity, we have consistency across the board moving forward for all of the years outside of 1 year, if that's what we're going to give her. If Mr. Mamoot puts in another tenant in that space, if somebody moves out, then that sign will have to conform at that point. And so moving forward, we'll always have consistency on the building. And we're also so basically we're saying to get the best we can to suffice here would be to give this business owner a window of time to do that. I'm not opposed to that, but the timing would be something to consider. And then if anybody else has any other objections, let me know.
So we'd temporarily grandfather her in for a certain period of
Correct.
time, but not permanently, and anybody
Correct.
else coming in
Yep.
it would have to conform with the chosen
Yes.
mode of signage.
Correct. That's what I would propose in this scenario, but that's what we're here for, is to
But then,
talk
then
about.
we're creating a precedent. I mean, I don't
I
know
know,
how
I
you
do.
can tell somebody coming in behind them who has the same rationale that they don't get the same.
They don't get to move
It
in
won't be-
first. She's already
They
there.
won't be grandfathered in.
That's kind of the same condition that you had on the center with respect to the pole sign, right?
Yeah, we
The way
had
the
those.
pole sign was supposed to work was that no new
2014.
tenants could get their name on the pole sign, and that it had to come down by the end of 2014. Didn't happen, but that was the original condition. And so in this case, the condition would be that sign, assuming it's it has to be size conforming, but
Yeah, of
assuming
course.
it's size conforming,
Yep.
then it can stay for whatever period of time.
We'll have a
And then
sunset for that as well. Is that what
There
you're?
would be a sunset,
Okay.
and then it would be replaced with one that fits whatever the prescribed model for the center is supposed to be. And as you say, any new tenants obviously would have to.
That's the same thing that happened already, that they were grandfathered in until they made changes to the building. And
But-
now we're,
But we're putting an actual time frame on this one, which is nice. And/or if she moves out, I hope that doesn't happen, but she's got her negotiations happening here very soon. And if they can't come to an agreement, Ms. Marmoot would have to put somebody else in that building, and that person would have to conform to the actual sign.
I get it. I just think
So-
it's just kicking the can down the road.
Well,
And
what
that's
should
not,
I-
nothing to say about the business owner,
Not
because I
necessarily
agree
for-
with you in your frustrations. I think it's on your landlord who's made the changes. I mean, I think that you have some power to negotiate in your lease renewal. I just don't know that we want to create precedent, or, that was my concern, not the rationale behind it. I get that. I'm concerned about, this is exactly where we were before.
Exactly. And so your concern isn't necessarily for this site. It's
Correct.
for other. Okay.
It's for future.
Yep, exactly.
And I think if this is an opportunity for this building to come into compliance.
I'm not sure.
Why would I'm not
I
sure
would
what-
agree with you on that. Only other thing is that we already have precedent from the city on pole signs, right? If it wasn't so
Right.
glaringly obvious as far as that they didn't take down every single, pole sign down by 2014, that they've been up for 4 years, I would agree with that, right?
Well, and I'm
But-
not sure I'm against potentially, I do see your point completely, but I'm not sure I'm against potentially if someone else came in front of us saying, it's not always easy to, money-wise, whatever, I get that.
I get it,
think
but
we all
then-
get
then you
that.
have to have
But if we
just-
set a specific, does that allow for reasonable and allowable flexibility with an end date and with an enforcement ability? Because if that sign, a year, what does it say? We say 6 months. If 6 months goes by and it's, she's still there and the sign's still there, and 7 months go by, it comes back in front of us and the sign gets down. It should have happened,
Right.
obviously, with the, I don't know, I guess,
I'm imagining it that there is a hard date on this. So I know kicking the can down a little bit, but it's trying, that's why we exist. And there's not just an ordinance rule that, says, hey, this is exactly how things work. And there's no negotiating on any of
I
that.
understand that. I just don't think that the decision should be, I don't think we should have to make the hard decision. I think the landlord has made a decision, and that should be dealt with as a business relationship. I don't necessarily know that it's up to the planning commission to create that resolution for them.
I'm just trying to say, like, he doesn't, he doesn't.
Seem to want to help us.
No, I think he's trying the best he can, because I've never heard of a landlord coming to somebody and saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to change the building, I'm going to buy you a sign. Like that just, it's really hard to.
But we don't know the conversations that have happened to date, but you're the only one here.
Gary's here, to be honest with you, I don't know
His
why
sign's
you would
already
say
been-
that we're not the type of landlords that
Well-
want to help our tenants. I take that personally, and I feel like that's an insult to our business.
Listen.
Yeah.
But we've had the conversation before. This is a very specific situation, I think, based on your relationship. And my concern, and I'll say it and I'll leave it, is that I think that that's not necessarily purview of the planning commission to give.
Well, let's kick the can some more here. What is proposed in front of us, all these signs are the same. Now, is that what we would be approving theoretically?
Well, you
So
got
it'd
to
have
read
to
the
fit
note,
into that,
too,
yeah.
and the note
The note
kind
needs
of
change.
takes away what the drawing seems to suggest, right?
Well, I mean, we take out the
That was my
planning commission
comment,
part.
was that once you get rid of the, or as otherwise approved, then the note means something.
Right.
But
all right, so that's out, but.
Yeah.
Okay, but the way I'm looking at it, okay, everything is the same here.
Well, but it's not intended to be that way, right? As Jim pointed out.
That I want completely understood, that it's not meant to be that way, because, for instance, this particular section of buildings or businesses is consistently in like a strip mall. You walk down Main Street, every little building has its own particular sign, even though they're all connected. So are we treating this strip mall different than what the individual businesses on Main Street and 14 Mile are?
You're reviewing it the same as you review every single property in the city center district now. You look at the signs as part of site plan review. Most of those haven't gone through site plan review yet, so we'll see when they do.
But they're individual buildings, not a strip mall of 4 businesses.
Right. A strip mall presents a unique opportunity, if you will. I mean, typically you don't have strip malls in downtowns, right? But, you know, here we happen to have a couple, and, you know, at that point, you have the opportunity to make sure all the signs are consistent. You know, in an ideal world, you know, you'd want your whole downtown to have some sort of design consistency. That would be optimal. But, you know, that's not realistic. What happens is you review each one as it comes before you, and you decide whether that plan is a good one and, you know, according to the standard that we've read, right? Or is it, you know, architecturally compatible? Every building looks a little bit different too, right? I mean, you don't want it all to look homogeneous necessarily. You want it to be compatible.
Well, I understand that, but I could take St. Clair, Michigan. They have a strip mall, nice brick and everything like that, but each building in that strip mall has its own individuality for its business.
But do you know that that's not written to their city conformity? Maybe that's how the city wrote their charter, to have that.
Yeah.
Very possible on that, Scott.
And we're taking the opportunity to say, listen, we want to see some type of consistency here. So, I mean, it's just every city can do what they want. This is what we've said.
Well, I'm not saying, but what I'm looking for is are we trying to be monotonous on this?
It's not that monotonous. They don't look like, not every one of them is just going to be, you know, letters right in a row like this. It's just a style of sign.
Our collective is not going to look like the Laundry Palace.
Right.
It's just going to be, yeah.
Okay, for instance, like Elizabeth's sign, okay, compared to everyone else's then.
That's definitely a different type of sign. But like her design, like if she took her design and put, like, you can make something similar to her design in this format that they're describing. It won't just be a word, right? You can do designs and stuff like that. It's just it's the type of sign. So like these are like 3-dimensional, like neon style blocks that protrude from out, and then they have a raceway behind them, like adhering them to the actual facade. So, but a wooden sign, or fiberglass or whatever, you know, that does not have those other characteristics would not be consistent, correct?
I'd like to see if we could take a vote on Scott's suggestion. I like the suggestion. I think it gives Elizabeth the opportunity to be able to work. Because I do have to sympathize with her when she says she's still a new business, and really 2 years is still a new business. Mm-hmm. And she wants some time on that sign, but.
Can I speak?
Yep.
You're welcome to speak.
Please.
Absolutely.
Gary Fry at Laundry Palace, 140 South Main. So I'm kind of following Jim's line of thought here. Let me understand. What you're saying is we are limiting the strip for now and for everybody that comes before you as businesses change to be channel letters on a raceway. Those are the only options.
Yes, that's what your,
Well,
that's what your landlord limited you to. So you understand, wait a second, so you understand this, that's what your landlord limited you to. Your landlord made that choice with your input.
He's only limiting that because that's the direction that he's been given.
No, there's a multitude of different types of signs you could have out there that he could choose.
He could say 140.
You had input with him on that.
We want to have, and understand too, that channel letters and styles of letters and the types of technologies that are available change all the time. Mm-hmm. Some of the nicest looking letters that you can get are on individual stanchions and that are backlit and look like halos, and they're gorgeous.
That would be fine.
That would be fine, then put it in the site plan.
Right, but 2 years from now, a new letter comes out or a new technology comes out, we can't do that.
You're right. And are you looking to change your sign every 2 years? Is that a big thought of your concern of yours? Because how long did you have your previous sign for?
I inherited that sign, and I've been there for 12 years.
Okay, so are you really concerned that in 2 years from now that sign, something else might come out that's better?
Absolutely.
And you're considering changing your sign?
LEDs
well, then at that
come
time,
out,
if you want to go to your landlord and ask him to put together a new site plan and bring it towards us, then that's an opportunity also.
But then everybody else would then have to conform to what I want. based on what the limited
Not if
scope
your
of what
landlord
you're
doesn't
doing.
agree with you. If your landlord says, sorry, that's not really important to me because I don't need to see a new sign up there in the next 2 years, then no, they're not limited to getting what you want. You may not get what you want out of that. But you're not really concerned about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really believe you're concerned that you need to have a new sign every 2 years and you don't want to be put in any type of box that you can't have that opportunity to. You're not looking for that.
As a matter of fact, yes, I am.
So what happened
Because
in the last
I
12
went
years?
to-
Why
I
was there
went-
no change in your sign in the last 12 years? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well,
I
I mean,
apologize.
the changes were coming. I mean, there were changes to my sign. I put LEDs in them. So, yeah, I have changed my sign over the 12 years that I've
Because you
had
put
it.
new light bulbs and you constitute that changing the sign.
Well, I mean, it
Did the
certainly
look of
changed the
sign
type of
actually
light, and
change?
that type
Did
of
the look of
thing.
your sign change in 12 years?
Certainly the intensity and the brightness. I wouldn't say the physical characteristics did or did not.
Okay.
But to say that I wouldn't want to change that sign to freshen up my building or my look or my facade or whatever the case might be, why would you say I couldn't if I chose to every 5 years to change my sign to make it look like my business is progressing and those types of things? Why would you tell me I couldn't? Why would you limit
I don't think
that?
that's the goal here.
And
It's
I'm
an
looking,
opportunity.
and be honest with you, I was looking at a lot of different things, and there wasn't time in order to put things together to research everything and those types of things that I was looking at letters that were on stanchions that would be backlit and those types of things. Awnings and different things that I would have proposed to Mr. Mahmood. But there just
You know why
wasn't
you're here,
time to
though,
put
right?
it all together.
You
What's
know
that?
why you're here, right?
Why I'm here?
What the cause of all this was, right?
The facade coming down.
Exactly. That's not our issue.
No, I understand, but now you're locking, you're saying to the landlord, and you're saying to the landlord that this is the type of sign from here and now on forever that you're gonna put on this building.
Until he comes in front of us with the
So,
sign.
so here's your options, and here's what you can do. If in 2 years you're ready to get a new sign because you see something that may fit your business better, then you
Yes.
could go to Mr. McMood and say, I would like to see this. And Mr. McMood is welcome to put together a site plan and say, all of our businesses would like to change the conformity of our sign. You're welcome to do that.
What if all the businesses don't want to? What
Then
if
you
I
may
just
not
want
get to change your sign. Then you may have to accept what you have and not change your sign. There are certain criteria that we have. And if you can't meet that criteria, I apologize. You may not be able to change your sign.
If you were in a standalone building, that would be your prerogative. But because this is a unit altogether, it's one site plan. So there isn't that level of,
Because a year ago when it started, that wasn't, that wasn't what I understood. What I understood a year ago when all this started was, I had to wait for the facade to go up. Once the facade went up, I came down, got a permit, put my plans together, got it approved, and then put my sign up. And that's what I've been waiting for the last year, is for that to all to transpire. Couldn't decide what kind of sign I was gonna do until the facade went up and wanted to be architecturally correct
no one in
and
the
those
city
types of
staff
things.
told you that your sign was contingent to this site plan approval?
What's that, I'm sorry?
No one on city staff told you that your sign was contingent to a site plan approval?
Not a year ago, no, not when this all started, no, absolutely
When the
not.
facade came down?
When the facade came down, no.
At what point did you become aware that that was contingent to a site plan approval?
Month ago, maybe?
When's the last, you were here before the commission, it was more than a month ago,
A month
wasn't
ago,
it?
approximately. I don't know the exact date, but it was about a month ago.
So your landlord didn't communicate with you what he knew, which was when the site plan, he has to have a site plan and he has to have consistent signs, and somehow or another you
Well,
didn't
when
get
we
that.
talked about consistent sign, yeah.
I don't know why you're blaming me for
I'm
it.
asking.
Well, no,
I'm
because
not
Gary
blaming,
came.
I'm asking.
No, Gary came and talked to the city administration. We were under the same impression. This is how signs had been approved in the past. The individual tenants would come in, they would present their sign, they would either email it to Susie, present it to Jim. They would determine if it met within the ordinance, basically if the sizing was correct, and then it would be approved, a permit would be issued, and you would pay and you would put up your sign. And that's how it's been. That's how business has been done here.
I sense Jim has something to say.
The new city center district has added the architecturally compatible version of the site plan review process for the signs into this. So the original sign ordinance for the downtown. Didn't have the architecturally compatible version.
And when did the city center version get
July of last year,
17 or 16? 17.
17.
Okay,
So-
let me ask a question. Okay, in the note for the signage, just for some clarity, it says signage style to be channel letter on raceway mounted to face of building, unless otherwise approved by the planning commission and the landlord. Now, that's on the proposal, correct?
Oh, I read it.
Okay.
Right, and I suggest you get rid of unless otherwise approved, because otherwise you're going to have this discussion every single time a tenant changes in that center. That's not what is supposed to happen. What is supposed to happen is you get a proposal, you approve it, and that is the guiding principle going forward for permitting signs for that center.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that this verbiage doesn't put handcuffs on the tenants.
It does.
It puts it on the building owner.
That's why I read it. I wanted to make sure that
And just so
I
people-
understood what I read.
And you know, it is what it is, but raceways are ugly. They are ugly. They're not a pretty thing. If we could get rid of raceways, that would be a much better way to go. But it is the way the technology is with channel letters. I understand that. But raceways are a 4-inch square box with a lid on it that weigh a ton and have to be NEMA 4 and all kinds of regulations and those stuff. They're not small.
Yeah, but again, I go back to, we're not telling you you have to have channel with raceway. We've never told you you have to have that.
I understand that. I understand what you're saying. But in
So what
order
would you
to,
prefer to have?
I would prefer the liberty to express myself on the front of the building with whatever letters and style, as long as architecturally is within the code of the city
Okay, but that's-
guidelines.
but that's not available.
If another building has a particular type of sign that has been approved in the last 6 months, I would like to be able to have that type of sign.
Okay, that's not available to you, though. So that option isn't available to you. The option that is available to you is what consistency would you like to see in the set of businesses you have there? And you can, with your discussion with your landlord, you can come up with what you feel is the sign design that you like to have. But you don't have that option that you'd like to have. And I apologize that you don't, but you don't have that option. So understanding that, what would you feel would be a better lettering option for your buildings?
Based on what you've said, there's nothing else to say. I mean, this is the choice and this is what I've got. So, I mean, at this point, our collective is not in compliance either. So anybody who already has a sign up there is not in compliance. The antique store is not in compliance. They're not on a raceway. They're not lit. They're not, so
So I guess that question, that you're making a good point here. I see what you're saying, but my question, Mr. Mamou, if you can, I know that you put the clause in at the end. Was the clause really just intended to be like a, hey, I'm going to put something in here and then the clause will allow all the rest of the signs? Because my question is, if he said, at that point, what he's suggesting is that the only sign that would be in conformity if we were to approve this and strike the, planning commission part out of it, would the Laundry Palaces be the only sign then that actually would conform to this?
That was not our understanding leaving the last planning commission meeting.
Okay.
To be honest with you, we had this discussion on raceways. That was in fact it took it exactly from what Greg stated into the microphone. Channel letters on a raceway mounted to the front of the building. That's exactly what he stated during the last meeting.
No,
That's
to
exactly.
be clear, I never said that's what you needed to have.
Okay.
I said
Referring to
that's
another
how
building.
the last project described their signs.
Well, we could say just channel letters. We could say just channel letters mounted to the face of the building. Would that be acceptable to you all?
If it was architecturally consistent and it fit into the code, sure.
Okay. Does that work for you? Then we can get rid of the raceway language as well.
Yeah.
Just say channel letter mounted to the face of the building. Right, because our
Jim, can you
collective
give
is
us
a
any
channel letter mounted
insight
to the face of the
on
building.
What that would be opening us up for? Do you know the realm of possibilities that we would be opening ourselves up for here?
Like, for Pete's sake, could we just find the most flexible language there
Right.
is within the code and tell us what it is?
Yeah, because
What
quite
is it?
honestly, I have concerns over the facade. And I'd like to get on with that.
Yeah.
Your last suggestion is fine with me, and I'll interpret the sign ordinance as best as I can.
So get rid of the raceway
Yes.
portion? Okay.
Sure.
And then we're going to strike the planning commission part of that out of there.
And are we still expending to Elizabeth the year to update her sign?
Do we need to?
Yeah, I think we would need to, because that would
I
not.
think we
fall
need to.
I agree.
Now, the question is, do we want to? Now, do we need to? Because it's not conforming at that point, correct? Her sign would not be in conforming, even with the new language that we're putting in.
The more liberal language.
Correct.
Okay. So that means that we would have to, as a group, just take a vote to say, do we allow the time?
Even so, though, are the existing signs compliant and consistent? Because if we're saying, is it lit, is it non-lit?
It's non-lit, right?
Channel.
Just channel letters, non-lit.
I'm asking.
No, that's a good question. Yeah, we need to.
Because if you put up a lit sign and our collective is not lit, then it's not consistent.
I thought it was lit.
I thought they were all.
I thought it
It
was
is
too.
backlit.
Somebody just said it wasn't.
So are we suggesting backlit then?
Do we have to have that in there? I mean, can't we just say channel letter? Weren't we trying to go for the most flexible language possible?
With some consistency, though, like that you do. That's the really challenging part about this, right? Like, you do want it to be. We're trying to be flexible, but at the same time, making sure. Now, I'm asking because it was brought up: is being backlit something that we want to put in there? I'm not suggesting
But I
it
thought
is.
that's what Raceway was. I thought, as I understood it,
Raceway is like the mounting.
The raceway is the back bar behind it. If you just leave it at channel letters, and then
Yeah.
you let me interpret what is architecturally compatible instead of discussing it at this board,
Yes.
I'm okay with that, but just don't yell at me in the future when I determine something's architecturally
No, we just need to
compatible.
test you monthly with pictures
How
to
did
say,
you let
how
that
does this
happen?
look to you? Does this look good?
Yeah, so we'll have a monthly gym test.
Well, then we
Let's-
got to get rid of that last sentence in this presentation.
You've already said that.
But those would be
The
two
pure
separate
balance sign
motions. Can
does
we do
need to be
this?
discussed.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that needs to be part of what we agree.
The-
No, but I'm saying the piece, the piece about Elizabeth would be separate than this, right? I mean, we are simply going to, we're letting them state what the sign is, but if we're going to allow it, you don't want to include it in the site plan. We're amending.
Well,
site-
no, we have to have the site plan be consistent, right? Or not consistent, but the fact that we have,
So we would put that language in there.
we would
if we
need
chose
to.
Yeah, I think so.
You want to add like a
Yeah.
That was
variance
just a
to it.
question.
No, I understand what you're saying, yeah. But,
So,
I think
okay.
Should be
So I
inclusive.
want to point out that we just came all the way around circles. So all of these signs, with the exception of your new sign, the Laundry Palace sign, they're all going to be the same. Right?
They're all
Because
gonna be the same.
they fit that flexible parameter.
Well, no, Elizabeth's
Oh,
only
the
going to
same
have a
as-
year on hers. The
I know,
others-
but
the others are
as
reviewed.
is construction finishes, all of these signs will be the same except for Laundry Palace's new sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
That's what we're saying.
For now, and then, and a year from now, then the, then Elizabeth's sign would have to change. But yes, I
That's
think,
not what Jim said.
No, it's not what Jim said.
okay, what are you saying, Jim?
That's what I thought I said, that.
No, they all weren't going to be the same, but they were based upon,
This,
They'll be the
she's
same as what they
referring the
are.
same signage that's existing
That
out there.
already exists. They're
Okay,
current
okay.
signs, not that they'll all be the exact same sign.
But by
Right.
changing the wording to the way we just talked about, the more flexible wording, now all of the signs are in compliance.
Pretty close. The massage, Elizabeth sign would not be.
That's temporary, I get that.
Yep.
But all of the, after
Yep.
construction, all of the existing
The
signs go
antique,
back up.
Yep.
Our collective and the Laundry Palace.
I just want to confirm that.
That's my understanding, I think.
But they're allowed to do that because that's within the parameters of the code and.
But we called them in here because the signs were not in compliance.
You got that?
No. Not for that.
Want to read that back to us?
This is only one part of it. so
Yeah.
we
It's all
still
right.
haven't
Yeah,
got to the
exactly. We
facade.
still have to get the facade.
Yeah, we got it.
Together, I mean, at least that's how I
We
remember.
table the
reading it.
sign and move on to the.
we're taking that
We're going to have
last
to address it at
sentence
some
off.
point,
then.
right?
Don't we want to know what the facade is
Okay.
first?
Sure.
Just make a really stupid sign.
That's a good point.
I think we beat that horse enough. Let's move on to the next.
We'll review the details of the language
Yeah.
towards the end as we're trying to wrap it up. I want to hear more about the facade, because I do have concerns, because part of it is to do with where we're talking about the signs and how the signs will affix, and the problem we had originally with the facade coming down, right? And so how will this materials stand up, you know.
We are going to get permits. There will be a building permit PERD as well, so the building official will come and take a look. There are going to be furring strips attached to the front of the building, and these metal pieces will then be attached in sections to the building, screwed in.
But what I'm concerned about is the fact that we just were going over as far as how we're going to fix the signs. How is that going to impact the facade? You're going to be starting to put holes in this material, right? You may be compromising, I believe this is, well, why don't you talk about what these are?
It's been approved by an engineer. It's been stamped. I mean,
well, I don't see that, right? So I'm looking here as far as where it says that, you know, what type of load it will have, what type of, you know, how ferrous the material is.
Aren't those items that our building official takes care of?
Well, is it not, shouldn't that be on a plan too, as far as?
Go in there.
I mean, it's stamped by a professional engineer, architect. I mean.
Okay. I guess my concern, again, is the fact that you just had a facade come down, right? And so how is this different from that facade? And will it withstand as far as signs being put on it and potentially signs being put on, taken off, put on, taken off?
To the best of my knowledge, it's been approved by a professional who's licensed by the state of Michigan on these affairs. I mean, there's not much more that I can say than that. We will pull a permit. The building official will have his eyes on it as well. Other than that, I mean, there's not much more that not much more information that I could provide you than what's on the plan.
Is there any concern on, or not, lack of concern, or no concern, I guess?
I don't have any concerns about this type of material.
Okay.
We've used similar materials on other structures in the city. It's just you have to use the proper screws to anchor it to the wall, and it's actually designed for this type of use. So I don't have any issues with it. So.
Okay. So, I mean, as far as, like I said, when you start going in and changing tenants and they start changing signs and things like this, that may compromise where these are affixed, how they're affixed. Has that been a concern at all, or is that?
They have the potential to poke holes in this metal. It's not going to compromise the structural integrity of this corrugated metal.
Okay. What is the material? Do we?
I believe it's either a stainless steel or it's a steel byproduct that's not stainless.
Okay. Okay. That's
Okay, where does that bring us to? Size and species of planting details for proposed landscaping materials should be called out on the plan. Are they not called out now, or are they called out? On
size and species are just general descriptions. You look at the third sheet.
Proposal to go with something that's compatible with what's already there, or?
Yeah, I don't have necessarily any issue with the plant list. It's just that they have to be more specific about the plants.
We need to know. It says ornamental grass, and that could be in anything. Zebra grass, what's out in front of, what's Noble Appliance, some of the other places that we've had ornamental grass. We need to understand as far as this is going to be, 5 foot high, 3 foot high, things like that, right?
We were going to do our best to match what the city has out there as well in terms of ornamental grasses out in front. It's going to be a medium-sized juniper. Part of the issue, obviously, is that there are no plants currently in stock for us to take a look at in terms of samples. This is what we've come up with, and we intend to go back. Obviously, when things are in, and take a look and make those decisions, but we don't anticipate anything being over 3 foot. In terms of the ornamental grass, I mean, I wouldn't even say that.
Well, you still need to come up with whatever it's supposed to be there, right? So, as far as what do we? I'm trying to recall as far as what we've had in the city. Boy, I don't.
Forrester.
Yeah, thank you. I was just drawing a blank on, yeah, the good old Carl Forrester. I would recommend, well, no, because that gets tall.
While you're thinking, would that require self-watering too? Because I know that those in the summer, that does not look great, and I know that there's some struggle of keeping some of those annuals alive in the summer, or there used to be annuals. I don't even know if there are anymore.
The annuals on this plan are up by the building, as I understand it, right?
Yes,
Is that right?
yes, in the pots.
In the
There were never
pots.
annuals out in front. What we're proposing is to put more of the green shrubbery in front with parts of ornamental grass there as well. And then use medium junipers in the middle where the sign was, where the existing pole sign is. When that gets removed, to put a new juniper in there, medium-sized juniper, as well as in the other landscaped area to the right of the Laundry Palace to make it match.
So only D and E on the landscape plan are new, right? The rest of that's existing.
No, there's
Right.
going to be existing, no, there's going to be
On your
more-
notes, these are all existing, right?
No, you've got-
D and E are new.
You've got the notes, the letter I sent to you.
This
with
is the plan. D says new, E says new.
No, there's going to be C.
C says
C's
existing.
existing.
Yes, existing in terms of matching the existing, but C is new.
All right, well, that's not clear either then. So we need to know what's new and what's proposed.
The plan makes it look like the shrubs are symmetrical and even, and they're not.
We plan to address that when we start opening it up.
And what about keeping the mulching fresh?
We do that as well. We've put a note in there as well to add more mulch, keep it fresh.
So is irrigation, what's your irrigation plan?
We're using plants in the front that don't require daily watering.
No.
I would have said something about the boxwoods if I had known that they
Yeah.
weren't existing.
Besides, as far as,
They're never gonna survive without irrigation.
no, the other thing too, as far as whether or not they're salt tolerant, so, no.
So now he not only has to call out
Okay,
what type of
well,
plants.
we
he
can
has
have
to
it watered
add
every
in.
2 weeks.
All right, but
Are we going to require in-ground irrigation system? Is that going to become mandatory for it, or?
I wonder what was on the originally
I think we
approved
did it
plan.
down the street on that,
There was no
Corner building.
irrigation that was on the original plan.
yeah.
I mean, there was no underground irrigation on the original site plan.
Right, that's what I mean. And now that we asked people to put plants in, then how are they going to get watered?
Well, one of the two things should be true. Either they should be drought tolerant or they should be irrigated.
well, drought and salt tolerant.
Yeah, and salt tolerant. Boxwoods are not. Yews are not. Junipers maybe.
Yeah, the ornamental grass even depends on what type it is.
So then the directive would be to come back with those type of plants or an
You can
irrigation
prove the
plan?
rest of it and have the landscape plan come back when he can get his information on what's available to him.
You know, we started out the last time, and there were like 8 items on here, and I think most of those have been probably taken care of. And so now, my understanding is we're limiting it down to like there's 3 basic items of contention.
Well, there's 3 conditions. There were 2 issues that I wanted you to talk about, which were the signs and the landscape consistency. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to talk about that because I didn't realize that some of what was shown as existing was not actually existing. But given that, I would say if you're not comfortable with what you're seeing and you want to see that come back, then have the landscape plan come back, approve the rest of it, subject to those 2 conditions, that the freestanding sign be removed and that the design concept for the wall signs be modified as we discussed tonight.
Was there any discussion about the, was it skirting on the rooftop for the appliances?
I thought he did what you asked him to last time. He found
Put it on the
something
site plan.
Yeah.
that was
Good?
consistent
Okay.
with
Yeah, I just
what we
wanted to see
have
that.
here.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on the plan.
Yep.
I thought maybe that's what you had there, so, that is what
That's
you,
the other side of it. Yeah.
okay, awesome.
And that'll be oriented which way? Okay.
And then, is that what's on the table there?
This will be the front facade.
You mind holding that up real quick?
It's a couple pieces. It's three pieces.
It's 3 pieces.
It's three, I don't think you can lift it
I'm
up.
sorry. I didn't realize it was so difficult. I thought you'd just be able to pull it up. Don't worry
It's
about
sharp, too.
it. Okay.
So
Yeah, don't cut yourself. Don't worry about it. Thank you for bringing the matching skirt in. We appreciate that. That's much better than the lattice, for sure.
Is reflection and glare an issue with that, or is that treated so that it's not going to shine back on cars and things?
Doesn't look shiny.
It doesn't, but in the morning when the sun's going to smack right at the front of that building.
With the paint that's on this one, it is going to reflect less than what we had with the barbecue shack, because that was just galvanized.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And that was causing a problem, so.
You say this is going to be painted, Jim?
Yeah, there's a gray paint on that.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
So that's just the primer on the back, right?
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Do you want to talk more plants?
Well, we're coming back with that. What are you talking about? I wish we could talk more about it, but no. Okay, and then I'm glad you pointed that out. Okay, so you're going to have planters out in front, right? Do we have an idea as far as those planters? No, that's fine. You indicate planters.
Yes.
So, okay, so how tall are those planters?
They're already existing. They were already approved on the previous plan. They're already there.
Okay. I don't recall that. Okay. All right. All right, if
Yeah,
they're
we
already
do
there.
intend to install 2 smoker poles, one in the back, potentially 3 actually.
Okay.
1 in the front, 2 in the back, so that, these, what we've faced in previous years is if there was any plantings, people would put cigarette butts out into the planters and things. So we're hopeful that the smoker poles will get rid of that.
Are those just like temporary, or like you can move them like sand in the bottom type things, or are they going to be? Okay.
They're the poles. You've probably seen them in shopping
I've
centers.
seen you see permanent ones, and then you also see ones you can move. I just didn't know which kind. It doesn't matter.
They're
That
like
works.
plastic, right?
I think it's a good idea.
I don't know the exact
Okay.
material of them. Yeah.
Good luck.
Okay, so I need your language. How did you want to, so that I understand what you're saying, I just would like you to repeat it again.
Jim's ready.
The sign shall be in compliance with the Clawson ordinance section 341194 for signage in the city center district, typical for 5 area to be no larger than 24 square feet per public road frontage.
A little slower, right?
Well, it's written right on there.
Oh, is that okay?
He's reading.
Okay.
For businesses with
I'm like, wait a second.
with 50 feet or
Sure, your
less.
eyebrows went up, and I'm like, wait a second.
Signage style shall be channel letter. Delete on raceway mounted to face of building unless otherwise approved by the planning commission.
Nope.
Period.
I'm killing that.
Building, period.
Just throw period
Period.
Okay, so period. So style to be channel letter mounted to face of building, period.
there. Period.
Jim, does that give you the?
Yeah,
Does
well,
that
he had
state
some
that they still
approval
have to
on there.
present it to you? Then is that the nature of how things work already, or?
They have to get a sign permit.
Okay,
No.
just want to make sure. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, you still have to address the
Other side.
pure
Non-
balance.
Yep.
Non-conforming
Okay.
sign.
Yeah, but didn't you mention about continuation on that particular sentence, that it comes before you?
It's already implied because of the. That's what I was
We
asking.
don't want to imply.
No, it's not
All,
implied.
all
it's part
signs
of-
require a permit.
I understand, but then review by Jim,
He reviews sign
Reviewed by
permits.
the,
just want to make
Building
sure here.
No way you can get it done, yeah. And then you're gonna add a
So
variance
with
to the-
respect to the pure balance sign,
Yeah.
guess you would addend to that, or as a separate condition, that the Pure Balance sign can remain for 1 year, after which time it must be removed. Is that your timing?
Okay, let's,
I do have a quick question.
sure.
Would that 1 year be after construction or approval of this site plan? I do kind of need to have that
Yeah.
idea.
The sign isn't up right now, or is it up right now?
It's going to have to be it cannot be contingent on the construction,
It'd be on
strictly
approval of
because
site
that's
plan.
out of our control. Like, there could be things that happen, so therefore, a year from now, we're still struggling with some construction issues that would push that significantly.
Not only that, you have, correct me if I'm mistaken on this, she may also have weather conditions that may impact that.
I mean, at this time next year, you're talking about.
Exactly.
If we're looking at March, she may not be able to put it up because of weather.
Exactly. So is that something we want to consider?
I would just say,
Give a date certain.
Okay.
Whatever
My
it is.
proposal would, well, I'll say it, I'm going to throw out by end of June 30, 2019. Okay.
That works?
Yeah.
Is it, okay, all right, okay.
That's
15 months.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Well, if we give 1 year, right?
Okay, I'm listening.
You're
So
back
we've
into the
got,
season.
as far as being able to do something with, that will impact her business for, I don't know, holidays and things like that, right? So that she needs to have that leeway, and I think we're willing to do that, right? From what I understand. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not really sure what the weather has to do with.
Well, she has seasonality in her business, do you not? Okay.
Okay.
Right, so not only that, so as far as being able to remove a sign and have it impact her seasonality, plus the fact that being able to install it may have weather impact, right? If we come back a year later, she will have had Christmas, Valentine's Day, these other things that it may be best that it happen in a time frame where weather allows her to do that. And if we do that starting now, she basically has 3 months potentially, and then she may have impact for weather and seasonality for a business where her sign may, be missing for a period of time, and then come back and finish that up for next year. So that's why I'm thinking as far as give her the spring and then half of the year next year in order to complete that.
Well, I concur with that too, because she mentioned earlier that once her sign came down, her business started to decline also.
I'm not sure why we're taking a sign down if we don't have a new sign to put up. That's my question.
Well, this gives her the chance to get the funds needed for that new sign after June 19. I mean, we're here to help businesses.
We're trying. I mean, we're
not
giving a
putting the
year.
handcuffs on them.
I'm just wondering how giving a year leeway is not enough time.
You want more?
No.
I want
He
1 year.
wants less.
Here.
I like the June.
I don't know that there, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that there's a seasonal issue with putting up signs.
There should not be, no.
Okay. So I'll take proposals on dates.
March
What
31st.
I would say, March 31st.
Okay.
May,
Please.
Why?
because I like her.
But the,
That's
I would love to
insanity,
make
but
that the standard.
And I'm trying to
Really would.
support the business for her funds.
but we
Okay.
just told that other gentleman we needed to act in fairness
Yep.
and transparency,
No, I
and we
agree.
need to offer the same things to everybody. So if you want to come in and let everybody else extend their request too, then you
And I
better
mean,
be
that
prepared
is,
for that.
Elizabeth asked for 6 months to a year. We're giving her the extension of what she asked for.
Yeah, a year.
So
okay.
I would say. by
Just for
year,
the sake of
that works
argument.
For you.
Well,
March 31st, okay.
Thanks a lot, Bill.
Okay, and then we're saying, as far as the landscaping, you'll have to come back for that with specifics to species, variety, and an irrigation plan.
We're going to intend to use the drought salt-resistant plants, so we'll come up with size and species.
Okay, because I think we already have that list available, don't we?
There's a list in the ordinance.
Not a drought.
Oh, but we do have that, the list that we have from from MSU Extension.
Okay.
Sure. What, I think it would probably be, so they don't miss the spring planting season, it would probably be a good idea to give them a date to try and bring that plan back to us. Your April meetings are the 10th or the 24th.
I'm not going to be able to get, there's nothing available at English Gardens until the middle.
No, but you can have an
Just the
idea.
plan.
Well, no, they
Until
do. They
next
start
month.
bringing stuff in already.
No,
But that's
we've
not the
gone.
point anyways. The point is it's the plan, not the.
That's exactly right.
Well,
I mean, you can
but we
talk to
wanna
somebody
we
at the
wanna
front
see
desk and
it.
say, hey, what will work, right?
No,
You may
actually,
have to-
we called out actually their designer, but we want to actually go and take a look and just see it. I mean, firsthand, make sure that we know what.
Then how come you
we're
came
putting-
up with these?
We know what these are. We've seen these.
You've seen boxwoods in this type of situation before?
They're there, existing.
Boxwoods are existing in that site?
Yeah,
I don't recall seeing the boxwoods there.
yeah, take a look.
Okay. I'll have to go back to the site. But I guess my recommendation, though, is, well, I haven't said it yet, so, but it,
When does he have to have them planted by?
The end of the spring planting season is,
spring planting season?
Yeah.
You mean start of?
well,
Oh, you know, I would say
no,
everything needs a,
at
no,
a
I
certain
mean,
point,
you're right.
they're not dormant anymore, and you don't want to plant them.
No, you can still plant. But as far as, for our intents and purposes, it needs to be by the end of May.
Yeah.
Because you start getting into June, then you start stressing plants out.
Right.
End of May has to be planted. So you have to know what they're planning by the end of May, and you're
Yeah.
suggesting that we should know that by
Either the
the end
10th
of
or the
April at the
24th of
latest.
April.
24th.
That would give them a month to plan, right?
Yep.
End of April.
Because here's the thing, I see what you're saying. You want to see this stuff, but if you don't present that to us until May, at the end of May, you're going to miss the actual opportunity to put them in the ground. So in some way, shape, or form, we're going to have to find a way to get that in there. Now, listen, I'm trying to work with you on that one, but that has to be the contingency here. So at the end of April would be when we want to see the plan.
For the landscaping.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that we grant site plan approval for 116, 140, through 140 South Main Street under the following conditions. First, that the signage style shall be channel letter mounted to the face of the building with an addition of a sunset for the non-conforming sign to be replaced and conform with the channel letter design by March 31st of 2019. Second, that the non-conforming freestanding sign will be removed. Third, that landscaping plants shall have species, variety, and abide by the salt and drought tolerance as recommended by city, and have a irrigation plan provided. That plan be presented by April 24th, 2018, with plantings complete by May 31st, 2018. And I'm missing something else. What am I missing?
The pole, or the pole, what sign?
I think you said
Freestanding
the
sign, did you
freestanding
say
sign.
that?
Yep. Is that it? I support.
And got a motion, have support. Any additions, changes, deletions? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scripture,
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Fenton,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Kucera,
Yes.
Mr. McHale,
Yes.
Ms. Prowse.
All right.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for your input.
Agenda item number 9, public discussion, items not on the agenda. So Anyone from the public that would like to say anything? Seeing none, I'm going to close public discussion, and we'll move on to other business.
I just have a couple of quick things. So Jim and I walked through the former El Guanaco space today. Salt and Sugar, we talked about their logo a couple weeks ago. They are ambitiously targeting opening in May, and she's got big ideas to make that space super cute. So looking forward to seeing what they make that space into. We have a new business that is looking to open and take over the old ICS space up on Maple, Electrical Terminal Service. So we just got their merchant's license, so we're learning about them right now. And I got some news. I'm not entirely sure how I necessarily want to interpret this, since I'm not. But KFC's sign contractor called today and canceled the job. So I'm not sure if that means they're not making any exterior improvements, if that means that their whole project is on hold.
KFC.
KFC was,
Yeah.
they went through site plan review last spring.
Oh, I wasn't.
And so they were supposed to,
Where were they going?
they were just updating a facade update.
Everything.
That KFC's us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was Troy.
No, that's the other side of the street.
Oh, right on, okay.
That's on our side.
Yeah, my bad.
Oh.
My bad.
Yep, the other KFC. So,
KFC.
KFC, not OC.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
So we'll find out a little bit more about that, but,
Chutneys, I see they have a sign up.
Chutneys has some signs in the window. We're still not entirely sure where they're at in the process of opening, but
They want us to know.
hopefully just sometime
Says
very soon.
Opening soon, now hiring.
Because we
That's what
haven't
their
had a
sign
site,
says.
we haven't had anything in front of us, right?
And you won't. They're just reoccupying
Oh,
that.
okay, so we'll never,
Not until they make any exterior improvements, though they are required to remove that pole sign. So, and Greg and I had a conversation with some guy that's interested in Atomic Chicken. We'll see if that
Really?
pans out. Yeah.
Are they going to remove the chicken?
Not the same guys. They would
do they just want
possibly
the chicken or
take.
do they actually want to open a
They do not want
restaurant?
the chicken.
They don't want the
They might-
chicken.
They might consider the
That's an
chicken.
icon.
They may consider using it as like play equipment or something. So
It's a
who knows? But
non-conforming sign now.
people are still interested in the site. So this is a good thing.
So are they, okay, so is it a chicken restaurant that's going in?
No, their concept
okay.
was very delicious sandwiches that are appealing to their small brood of children. So they're collective.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
No, I don't think it's just PB&J.
Oh, okay.
No, I think they're going to be very delicious. Great, yeah.
Shop with
So
high school.
we'll see.
Okay.
I hope they pan out because it sounded really tasty
Sure,
when they were
kids, they
describing
could
it
make
to me.
some, well, not allowed to leave school for lunch.
That wouldn't be necessarily terrible.
No.
It's
Right?
true. They could bring it over. Anything with the pizza guys, are they ever going to occupy their building, or is it just going to sit there?
I had a call from them
About a month ago,
about the food truck again. It wasn't about the inside, but he had a time frame, and then so we were talking about, was there any prospect that the food truck ordinance was going to be approved anytime soon? And whatever that prospect was, it was not within his time frame where he thought he was going to be done with the inside of his
Oh, you mean
restaurant.
never wasn't good enough for him?
So in a shorter time than never, he's going to be done with the interior of his restaurant. I think it was a couple
But he's
months.
paying rent on that, right? He's paying
Yep.
for that?
Yep.
Paying a lease?
The house equipment, wait, he doesn't have any ovens in it, does he?
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Yes, Jim?
I don't know if this board has been informed. Tavern on the Main, when they went through the site plan review process, got permission for a ground monument sign. Currently, ground monument signs are not in the current ordinance in that district. I'm honoring the site plan review and allowing them to install the ground monument sign per the site plan.
Are you saying we screwed up or the rule changed after the review?
Rule change. Just giving you a heads up in case somebody asks why a ground monument sign. It's because it was already on the approved site.
How far down does that extend? To what street?
That's the end of it. It's the city center district. City center district doesn't allow any
Avenue.
freestanding signs.
Okay, so Woodpile is not part of that? Ah, okay.
No.
Or any
That's the
potential?
dividing line right there.
Jim, can I ask you a
On that
question on
side of
that?
the street.
If so, they didn't put the ground sign up, right? Like, or, what's it called, the ground?
Monument.
Ground monument sign, right away or whatnot. So if, let's say 5 years from now, right, and a lot changes in our ordinance and whatnot, but it's still part of their site plan approval, are they allowed to come 5 years later and say, hey, you know what, I actually wanted that now, like I can put that in?
Well, it's my interpretation they've been continually working on that site
Sure,
plan.
yeah, I'm just asking in general, like if somebody doesn't do something.
Or sunset and sunrise.
Yeah, you'd have to be vested in it, right? And so what Jim's saying is that he deems them to be vested in that because they undertook the work and they've diligently pursued the work. But if, like, you had a site plan and you never did anything about it, and 5 years later you're like, oh, now I want to do this thing that's not permitted. First of all, the site plan would have expired, but apart from that, no, you would no longer be vested in the approval that you got before the ordinance changed.
Right, when they sought their site plan, I remember there was an amenity that they were going to paint the side of the building
on the north side
facing the party store to make it look like there were windows on it with people in it.
Correct. He's
Still
still
in the
planning
plans.
on doing that. So,
We should get him to do that before he puts on the monument sign,
well,
just out of,
He's got,
just to make sure
he
he's
still has a
doing
lot
it.
to, he still has to expand his kitchen. It's
I
still
want him to
that-
take down his pole sign, redo
Okay,
the
that's
parking
fair.
lot, and put the monument sign in was
In other
my
words, you have
game
a
plan.
plan.
That's fair, yeah.
Man's got a plan.
Okay.
Cool.
Anything else?
Stay in the city address tomorrow, breakfast time, I believe 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock.
Do either, anybody here have a cameo? Are we gonna be seeing you guys?
No.
Okay.
Oh, the apartment decision, has that been decided on?
The containers?
Well,
Yeah. No.
not decided.
Okay.
We presented a report to council. They had some questions about it. I relayed the comments and some of the concerns that council had after reading that report to the property owners. And they know, they can, it's up to them, right? They can roll the dice or not roll the dice. So, that was a couple weeks ago. I talked to him right after that council meeting. And so they're just evaluating, I guess. I haven't heard back from them.
They still own the property, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Which one's that?
That's the container, proposed
Walper.
container
Oh, yeah, yeah,
property
yeah.
at
Okay.
11 Walper,
Gotcha.
right there at
Yep,
the corner.
yep.
So.
Yeah, anything else? Yeah, I'd like to thank our home viewers for joining us this evening.
If there's nothing else,
I
Motion
make
to
a motion to adjourn.
Support.
motion support, roll call, please.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Sure.
Ms. Fenton? Yes. Mr. Jones?
Yep.
Mr. Kucera?
Happily.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Ms. Prowse?
Yes.
Ms. Scripture?
Yes.
Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Gerald.
Exactly.